Hey, this is Rod Cleef, and you are listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
Welcome to the Mailbox Money Show. I am super excited today. I've got my good friend Nate Hambrick here, who is talking really about leverage. And if you understand about leverage, there's that quote that someone can move the world. I'm going to butcher the quote, but move the world with a lever long enough, right? With the idea of being able to have something have enough leverage. And so leverage is about using your time. It's about using your money. It's about using things that you have, your influence, to do beyond what you could do of just simply having a time for money trade. And a lot of people get stuck into just making as much money as we can and working as much as we can. And we all know people that have, maybe we have parents or relatives that have worked themselves to the bone all the time. And it's like, it didn't really get them, like hard work does not equal wealth, right? And there's a lot of people, there's many, many more people that work really hard, but are very, very poor. And yet there are people that don't work that hard and they make tons of money. And why is that? Well, it's because they found a way to leverage and they found a way to learn. And really, it's this idea of investing in yourself, as Warren Buffett would say, which really is the best investment, right? Investing in yourself. So we have the amazing Nate Hambrick here today in the house. So what's up, Nate?
Living my best life. How about you?
I love it, man. You're crushing your kryptonite. You're using you got all your books behind you there. I love it. So I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm happy to be here having this conversation. And I think for no matter where anybody's at, if somebody is a passive investor, or if there's someone who is saying, "Hey, I've got my job and I'm trying to figure out how do I get out of it," I think leverage really is the answer, because leverage is how I've seen people go from a 2 million net worth to a 40 million net worth, right? It's just by using leverage, using debt, using time, using other sorts of resources or value add things that all provide leverage. So your book, The 18 Laws of Leverage, I want to give a little shout out for this. I've gifted this book to a few people. I love it. I think it's a great way for people to start thinking differently. And it's like the idea that a lot of these concepts are like you're in the matrix, and you're just like the things that everybody does is not going to get you where you want to go. And if you talk to people that do things, that are really wealthy, they do things way differently, right? They have different mindset practices. They have different things they do with their actions, and they're using leverage. And so you talk about in this thing that this book, The 18 Laws of Leverage, and I want to get into some of the different laws that are there. But first of all, how did you come up with these 18 laws? And are these definitive? Is there 19 and you only left put 18 in the book, or like how'd you come up with these?
I might have to pull a Jordan Peterson and do another 18 laws of leverage because there really are so many different forms of leverage. And the reason I wrote this book is because so many people, especially in the investor space, right? We've read 100 books on how to leverage capital. We've read 100 books on how to leverage code, or 100 books on how to leverage employees and the workforce and that kind of thing. But as far as I can tell, and going on Amazon and Walmart, there isn't a single successful book before mine that talks about all facets of leverage. And there are a lot of different forms of leverage, right? Uber leverages code to facilitate billions of transactions, right? Walmart, I think they have 2.3 million employees, something like that. Okay. So there are all these different forms of leverage. And the reality is not all effort is created equal, right? We all work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, but not all effort produces the same result. And so I wanted to kind of put it in writing, all the different forms of leverage that I could find, so that people could shift their mindsets and they could start getting better results for the effort they're putting out in the world.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Well, I think that again, it's going from what a lot of us, I've seen for myself as well, wish that I'd learned sooner. Right. I really thought if I could have a job and make more money, it'd be great. I did get into a sales role in medical sales, and I was making over 200,000 a year. But still, I had to be there. I had to show up. I had to be in these procedures. I had to be selling the doctors, and there was, I get a slap on the back saying, "Hey, great job. Now do it again. Do more, bigger, better." And it's like, eventually that gets tiring. And a lot of people I think are really in the grind. And the way people get out of it is things like learning how to make money while you sleep, right? And that's something. I know you're a big syndication guy, you're a big investment guy as well. Um, I guess what is it that, like, for some people it takes a little longer for us to get this message of leverage, leveraging money, leveraging time. Why do you think it takes a little while? Why is it hard for like most people to accept this idea of leverage in your life?
It's fear. Ultimately, it's fear. I think, like most things in life, we know the first few steps we need to take. Alex Ramosi has a simple line that, we all know our next step, right? If you need to get in shape, It's not like you don't know what to do. It's that you're scared to take that first step for one reason or another. And so my solve for that is just making it as easy as possible and then leaning into the pain. For me, all it took to start changing my habits was grinding myself into the ground and then meeting somebody that wasn't as talented or hardworking, crushing me. That's all it took. And that pain of looking at this other person and being like, why are you so much more successful than I am when you're doing a tenth of the work? Right. And so a lot of us, we've all had those moments in our lives. But for me, I allowed myself to sit in that pain for long enough to make a change. And it's the change that changes your life. And so, if I were to boil it down to two things, it's number one, meeting people that are already doing it, because that gives you a lot of confidence that they're not smarter. They don't know anything better than you do. Right. So that helps you take action. And then boiling it down to the simplest point of leverage so that you feel confident taking those bigger swings. And so, right now, you and I, we take these massive swings. Probably wouldn't recommend that when you get started. Just take those first few baby steps, make it really easy on yourself. And then once you're winning, then you can start taking some medium swings. And eventually you'll have the confidence to hit some real home runs.
Yeah. No, I think it's so good. There's this saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and we're not always ready for it, right? We have a lot going on. Sometimes there's situations, you've got young kids, you've got a situation at home, you've got a demanding job, and it's not always for everybody doing this all the time. But I think for me, I think there was a time where I just realized, like, man, I'm hustling for someone else, and if I found a way to, like, if I had my own thing, instead of making millions of dollars for someone else, I could actually make that for myself. And why not? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And so, and one of the things that actually really, there were some decision moments. Like, there was kind of some things of, like, we actually talked about this recently on a podcast, but the idea of, like, I had my full-time job and then I would hustle on the side to try to work ahead. But it allowed me to, I don't know, it just allowed me to kind of build. And then there was a point where I was able to leave, and it felt very scary. It was a bit, like you said, it was fear. It was very scary. And so I feel like the things in life that are certain are, you pay a big price for them because you don't have the upside. You don't have the benefit, at least in the investing world. You talk about a couple things here. Let's talk a little bit, shifting gears a little bit, about brand. You have one of the laws. Law number 5 is charge for your brand and build your brand. So don't just build your brand, but actually charge for it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the kind of the foundation for that chapter is what I call the Ariana Grande principle. And the reason I write about that is the very first form of passive income, or reoccurring revenue, I should say, in my life came completely by accident. So before I was in business, before I was doing real estate and all the other things that I'm doing today, I was writing and recording songs for other people. And, most people who are in the music industry know that very few people make money. But if you do it right and you build up that reoccurring revenue, it can produce beautiful things. So all the songs that I wrote 10, 12, 15 years ago, those songs write me about $100 a month in reoccurring revenue.
Amazing.
Now, $1,200 a year, did that change my life at my current income level? Absolutely not. But the great thing about charging for your brand to build your brand is that you can start stacking those. So I talk about the Ariana Grande principle. A lot of people don't know this, but it costs about 1.2 to $2 million to market a song into the top 40s list. So many people think that, the best artists are the ones that are winning. I fundamentally disagree with that. It's the people that have the capital to market their music enough to make a wave in people's everyday lives. So how does somebody like a Beyonce or an Ariana Grande consistently get hits? Well, they just write a $1.2 million check, and that basically guarantees them a top 40 song. The challenge is, how do you have enough income and enough capital to consistently write $1.2 million checks? And the answer is, you charge for your brand so that you can reinvest into it. So in Ariana Grande's example, last I checked, she's charging about $2 to $3 million per sponsored Instagram post to fashion labels, purse companies, what have you, right? So she puts her face out there, she promotes a brand, they pay her a $2 to $3 million check, and then she immediately reinvests that into buying songs, paying producers, paying for the ads, and the exposure she needs to have a top 40 song. And so it's very effortless. Now, don't get me wrong, Ariana Grande works very, very hard. but she's not grinding herself into the pavement, right?
Right, right,
She's
yes.
charging astronomical fees and then taking that, reinvesting that into her brand. And so
Yeah.
she's guaranteeing herself a win every single time.
Yes. No, you said a couple things. First of all, I missed this in your book that you are a songwriter as well. I'm actually a songwriter. I've written about 100 songs over the years. So that's something we haven't connected on, which is cool. I know we've been friends for a while, but yeah, it is hard to make money as a songwriter. And so that's one thing I realized, but you found a way, even if it's $100, you're making money as a songwriter. Actually, I remember this funny story when I was in a songwriters group. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. And I was writing a lot. I'd gotten divorced not long before, and I had all this content, this love songs, heartbreak songs, just writing a lot. And I was in this group, and there was somebody came up and said, "Hey, I've got this job. It's in the music industry, and it's this like district manager, like for a label position. It's covering half the U.S. You travel. It's like 45, 50. It's like full time, everything. But like the pay was like it was like 35 to $40,000 a year. I remember just being like, oh, like my mouth on the floor, like, oh my gosh, like if this were in medical sales, this would pay like a $500,000 a year. I was like, I just could not believe these people were all excited. It was in, but it's just funny, like whatever industry you work in too is helpful. But even like what you were sharing, the Ariana Grande principle, yeah, it sometimes does take money to make money and are being
Mm-hmm.
willing to invest in yourself. And we've talked about that too, advertising for books or doing things that we do to be able to sell books or to get kind of exposure. And then you have some way to recoup it, right? You've got a back end offer. You've got something like we have our investments, we have other things, we have our wealth forum mastermind, we have other things that we do. And so we're able to kind of capture on the back end. Why do you think it's hard for a lot of people to actually do that? Because I'm not Ariana Grande, you're not, obviously, and it's hard to charge. We're not going to charge $3 million to have a sponsored post. But is there a smaller way somebody can do that to be able to kind of invest in themselves and see a benefit on the back end?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that you can charge for your brand in any industry. So there are industries like the music industry, very few people are making money, but there are people making a ton of money because they
Yeah.
figured out the critical leverage point. And I have several friends I went to high school with that do make multiple six figures, even millions of dollars a year in industries where it's like 0.0001% people make money. And the reason is they figured out the few critical leverage points. Okay. So to answer your question, the smaller your brand is, the more important is that you charge for it. Okay, so I'll give you an example, right? I have family members and family members in law that are talented at fixing cars or they're talented at electrical work or whatever their job is. They don't have a brand, they are the brand.
Hmm.
Okay. And so it's very critical that they charge for the brand they have so that they even have a shot at expanding it. So, what does that look like in practical terms, right? If they have a friend or a friend of a friend or an acquaintance who says, hey, Bronson, I would love to hire you for whatever you do for a living, instead of just, telling them, okay, I'll work for $30 an hour, a simple fix that you can do is calculate in your mind what you would charge your hourly rate, double that, and then just quote them a fixed fee. So if you were going to charge for 100 hours of your time, we'll say 10 hours of your time at $30 an hour, that'd be, what is that? $300. Just double that, ask for that. You'll be surprised how many people say yes. And now you just made double your previous
Yeah.
hourly rate, and you can take that money and now you can invest it back into your business. The reason most people don't have a brand is because they haven't invested in it. You
Yeah.
need the capital to be able to reinvest in it. And so whether it's, my books, whether it's in all the other things that I'm doing on the back end, I always find ways to charge more than you would think I would be able to charge. And then I immediately deploy that capital into growing my brand. And what that does is it accelerates my progress and it puts me in a position where I can actually charge what I need to.
Yeah, it brings up a really good point, Nate, because I think a lot of us are afraid to charge more money, or maybe it's where like, I'm in medical sales, I'm going to charge more money or whatever. But I think like it really comes down to valuing your time. And I heard it said, I think it was Naval, whatever Naval, I can't remember his last name. He's a thinker,
Naval Ravikant.
Ravikant. Yeah, he said something like he had like a $10,000 per hour rate in his mind that's what his time was worth, which sounds outrageous. Who charges $10,000 an hour, right? But if you put it into results and you put it into like, okay, if my time is this valuable, then I want to do things that are high value. And secondly, I want to try to give away things that are not as high value. And maybe listeners, you're not saying, okay, well, maybe $100 an hour sounds crazy or $1,000 an hour. But if you assign a high value to it, then you stop just giving it away for free. And you're basically, in a way, you're looking at things like it subconsciously makes you do higher value tasks. Because I realize that if I focus on private equity deals and I focus on talking with investors, those are very high value activities for me. We can raise, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars off doing those activities or find a deal that's life changing for people. Or, if someone just wants to and this, I don't know if this happens to you, hey, Nate, can I get you coffee and can I pick your brain on blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I kind of don't really respond to those anymore. I get a lot of those requests sometimes, and it's like, well, I think pick the brain. It's like, well, what kind of value, if my time's valuable, like what's that? And there are people I will get coffee with, I will hang out with, but it's important when you think about yourself having value your time and you value your time, then other people put value on your time.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really important because people, if you don't value your time and every time somebody gives you a bid for attention, they text you, they ask for your time and you just give it to them in the way they're asking, you will never get to the next level, or it's going to be a very, very hard process. And so one of the things I love about what you do, Bronson, is now you have fire yourself behind you. It's so easy to say, hey, I'd love for you to pick my brain. Here's actually my book. Go read it and then bring your top 5 questions to me. I'd love to help you out. And the beautiful thing of that is, one, you're educating them with your book, so it requires 0 time. Very few people will actually finish the book. The people who do finish the book are going to have a much higher educated conversation with you, and then you can pivot to working with them, partnering with them. So it's not just them sucking you dry for information. It's more of a partnership. And so you don't just have to say, in my experience, I try not to say no. I pivot into ways that do not require my time. And then I can actually help them out. And actually, speaking of people like that, Nick Pitts actually was one of those people bidded for attention. Hey, go read my book, go read some of these others' books, bring your top 5 questions. And not only have you been able to work with them, he's invested with you several times, I believe. He's invested with me several times. And so there are great ways for you to value your time and still help people. So I think that's really cool. I'm so glad you wrote your book, by the way. I don't know if I've even told you this, but there's probably a 0% chance I would have ever invested with you if you hadn't written that book. So thank you.
Well, that's another point too, to thank you as well, to leverage your expertise is writing a book. And actually, just to share a personal story about Nate, I was about 80% done with my book. I met Nate at this conference. It was not a great conference, but we met there. And Nate was like, hey, we have this thing with selfpublishing.com. We help coach people into this. And you've been working with those guys as well. And just the stats are amazing. Most people say they have a book in them. About 85% of people say they have a book in them. Only 15%, I'm sorry, it's 0.5% have actually finished. And I think 15% of those who start actually finish. So I was 80% done on my book. And I met you and I was like, man, I just know I'm not going to get this thing done unless I get help. So you guys offered coaching and help, whatever. And so I leveraged the help to be able to get that done. But one thing that you said before on time was, and this is a little trick I found, is that a lot of people want to have your time. And if you can steer them to things that don't take your time, or instead of getting together for lunch or coffee, which that's like a 3-hour commitment because the time to drive there, you go meet and whatever, and it can be great. And you still do those, but maybe a 20-minute Zoom call is great, right? And then you can kind of figure out if you can help them. A lot of times it's just to catch up and it's okay. And then, like you said, you don't know where that will go. So I think it is, but it's challenging to value your time, be available to people, but not I guess, how rigid are you about that with your time if somebody wants your time?
The older I get, the less time I give out for free. And the reality is people have to earn it. And, like I said earlier, I don't tell people no, I tell them yes, and then steer them in a slightly different direction.
Yeah.
So I do know lots of entrepreneurs that just say no 99% of the time. Nothing wrong with that. But one of my core missions in life is to make people better and make the world a better place. And so I am a yes person. And so I always want to help people. So I'm very, very, very generous while guarding my time. My family deserves my best effort, not some random stranger I meet at an event. Right. But there's so many different avenues for helping people. And actually, to circle back to your book, because you are in the, I don't know if you even knew this, but your book is in the top 8% of all books ever published on Amazon based on how many reviews on your book. Congratulations, by the way, for getting well over 1,000 reviews.
Thank you, man.
Speaking of leverage, what are some leverage points you found in not just publishing a book, because we all have friends that publish books that do nothing for them, but publishing a book that you then leverage to sell tons of books and then leverage for other things. What are some of the happy accidents you found now that you have had a very successful book?
Yeah, I would say, for everybody, I would say it is a very valuable thing writing a book, because I'd say now of people that invest with us, I'd say probably half of them come from, hey, I read your book. And just from as an investor standpoint, or like you were saying, even you just said, hey, if I hadn't read your book, I probably wouldn't have invested with you. But it's some people, like if you have a call with somebody, if you've read somebody's book, you understand where they're coming from, right? You understand kind of what their approach is, and it just gives you a great level of comfort. The word authority has the word author in it, right? So if you want to be an authority on anything, you be an author, and you're just going to draw people to yourself. And we talked about this actually before we started recording: is what's the lead magnet? What's the draw? How are you kind of using that? And so we have different giveaways we do through the book. There's some resources that we give away, the audiobook, and give away some other checklists and other things like that. And it's been great. And then people go in and then they download, and then they get kind of in our funnel, and then they say, hey, let's set up a call. Yeah, it sounds great. And then they set up a call, and it's a great way. So, we've raised millions of dollars from writing a book, right? I haven't really, the book hasn't made money in the sense, we sold a bunch of copies, sold about 2,000 copies, which is great, but it's really generated a lot of different leads. So I think that's a way to leverage. I think for you, it kind of goes into this thing about create once and sell forever, right? So when you create a product, you create a book, you create a resource, you talked about it with a song. What are some other ways people use that create once and sell forever principle?
Anything that's digital that you can create once, you can sell forever. I mean, there's so many different opportunities for this. I talk about this inside of the 18 laws of leverage, but for any of you sales reps out there or entrepreneurs, there are so many opportunities to create products once that you can sell forever. Obviously, courses is an obvious one. A lot of people create a course, they sell it 10,000 times. One of my favorite hacks for all sales reps is to create bonuses that you create once and then sell infinitely. So going back to one of your earlier questions, how does the everyday person, just the average Joe, apply some of these laws of leverage? If you work for a Fortune 500 company, you're not just going to immediately go start your own business without overcoming a ton of hurdles. What you can do, even if you're, just a regular employee at a massive company, you can create these little freebies, these little bonuses once, and then offer them to people I call it action taker bonuses. So what does that look like, right? Let's say that you're selling marketing materials, right? You can create additional marketing assets, create it once, and then, basically not advertise it, but offer it as an action taker bonus. Name it something awesome like Bronson's, $1 million lead funnel generation system or whatever. And then whenever you're selling something to somebody, you can offer them this product you created once as an action bonus. For myself, I think I estimated I generate an extra $500,000, $600,000 of revenue by giving people freebies that cost me nothing in time. Right. Yeah. And then once you're generating, like we'll use sales reps as an example, if you can increase your revenue per year by an extra $500,000 or 600,000, hopefully people take it and run with it and do 5 times, 10 times, 100 times that. Now you have so much more capital that you can then deploy for everything else, buying assets, creating more products. The biggest thing for me now, Dan Martell, buy back your time. I am buying back my time all the time, even skill sets that I already have. I'll use my audiobook as an example. Recorded my audiobook. I'm an audio engineer by trade. That was my former career. I can do that all day, but my hourly rate is 20 times higher than it costs to outsource. And so I buy back my time. And so all of these laws of leverage, they all compound. Because if you can increase your revenue, increase your results on one, you now have a lot more capital and a lot more time to invest elsewhere to then create scalable products. And so that's the beautiful thing about leverage, is that it's not a linear path. It is an infinite path. And that's where you meet these average people that are, no smarter, no better looking than you, Bronson Hill, that are making $20 million a year. That's how they're doing it. They're just stacking these little things and getting compound results. So actually, I'll turn it back to you. What have been some of your biggest, points of leverage? What have been some of the biggest things you've implemented in your life that have given you the time freedom that you now have to travel the world, take all those cool, sexy Instagram posts and post them all day long? What have been some of those leverage
Yeah.
points for
Yeah.
you?
Well, there's been a lot. That's a great question. I think obviously having team helps. Talking about having people that can help you do it. So I have people that, I have a couple full-time employees in the Philippines that, are making less than $10 an hour, but for them, I mean, the average wage is $2.50 an hour, right? So they're thrilled, right? And they work hard, and we're a team, and they're like, they are A players. They're awesome, and I tell them they're A players, right? And we really build that culture together. So having people that can help you. I do think I want to say something about this, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this kind of before we wrap up. Um, I feel like we're in a time right now, Nate, it's a little deep philosophical, but we're in a time right now where things are changing so quickly. I know I'm a little bit older than you are, but just like, when I was young, it was like the internet was kind of just starting to get going, and we were AOL chat rooms and things like that. Now we're like AI, and I mean, there's all these things going on, and things are happening so quickly. It's not necessarily that robots are going to take over our jobs or our lives, but the empowered worker using AI can destroy somebody else who's not, right? Just because of the ability. And I think people that are not paying attention, and people that are just have a certain skill or are working a certain thing, I think there's going to be an incredible amount of displacement, right? People are going to be pushed out of certain jobs just because there's no reason to have a need for this thing anymore. That's the skill that AI can do, right? So that's where I think the learning, the leverage, the brand value, you're talking a lot of this stuff you talk about is not just leverage money. Buying assets are great because people are always going to need a place to stay. There's no technology that's out there that says that people will not need a bed to sleep in or a roof over their head, right? That's not like, we don't have anything like that's going to continue to be there. But let's talk for a little bit about like just like kind of trends that you see going forward over the next 5, 10 years. I guess which of these principles that you have offered do you see as being kind of most important? Is it the brand value? Is it the investing? Is it like or buy back your time? Like what are some of the things that you're like with the rapid changes? These are the things that everybody should be doing.
Yeah, my advice is, and I tell people this all the time, is, there's so many different avenues where you can win. Pick two, right? So with the 18
Yeah.
laws of leverage, each one of the 18 laws of leverage has the ability and the potential to make you millions of dollars, buy back your time, and regain your freedom.
hmm
Pick
And
two.
be Ariana Grande, right? Do you think I have a
And
shot?
be Ariana Grande, right?
Kidding.
You might never have her voice, but you can use the same principles that she uses. It's not easy, but it is simple, right? All of these forms of leverage are very simple. So to answer your question, depending on your skill sets, depending on the intellectual capital and the abilities you already have, find a leverage point that's going to be easy for you, right? It's all about baby steps. So if you already have a skill set in your current job, right? If they pay you for something, if you're good at something, a great place to start might be Law 5, charging for your brand to build your brand. That might be a great first form of leverage. Okay. If you I don't know, you already have a small side hustle, Law 18, harness the attention economy. That might be a great form of leverage. One of the points of leverage that I've found is, leveraging books to speak at conferences to sell from stage, right?
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, right, and you can only generate, I'll make up a number, but $500 or $1,000 of revenue per hour, publish a book, leverage that to speak on stage, and then generate six figures, right? I've done multiple stages where I've generated 170 or $200,000 in a 30-minute talk. That is a massive form of leverage. And it's not just on stages, right? A lot of people do this on TikTok, right? Cody Sanchez, right? She's built a massive empire teaching people how to buy boring small businesses, and she's leveraged TikTok. So which is better,
Yeah.
TikTok or business conferences? Well, it depends. What's your skill set, right?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about TikTok, right? Do you waste your life on TikTok? If so, take that time suck, repurpose that for something productive that makes the world a better place. So there are lots of different forms for leverage, but if I were to simplify it, it's find two that seem like the low-hanging fruit for you, run with those, and get the full value from them before you pivot to something else.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nate. Well, I love it, man. Well, we could talk for a long time. I know we will. You've had you as a guest host on this show. We'll have you back again soon. But so appreciate you, man. Encourage everybody to check out his book, to his two books, Crush Your Kryptonite and the 18 Laws of Leverage. How can people get in touch?
You can obviously add me on social media. You can email me at nate@natehambrick.com, but absolutely check out the 18 Laws of Leverage. It's been out officially for almost 4 weeks. It is already at the 400 review mark. So check that out, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you want to partner in all things leverage and investing.
Awesome, brother. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate how much value you add to my life and how much value you add to others' lives as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I love that show with Nate Hambrick, great friend. He's also become a co-host on this show. We're starting to do more round-robin conversations just around amazing topics, but it's really a great thing to think about how you're leveraging things in your life. How are you leveraging the relationships, the influence, the time, the energy, the money, everything that you have, because that's how people go 30, 60, 100 times more, is they find ways to leverage. So I think it's important to get out a journal, take some time this week, today, just what am I doing to leverage my time? What am I doing to grow my brand? What am I doing to leverage my network and helping other people and helping grow my network as well? So I think that's a super great takeaway. Again, check out his book. I think you'll love it. If you haven't joined our investment club, we'd love to help find a way for you to help leverage your wealth. Is really what we do, is we help people grow their wealth through investing in things like real estate, cash flowing businesses, or oil and gas. And really, it's cash flow appreciation and tax benefits. So if you haven't joined our investment club, you're not hearing about these awesome deals, you can go click the link below, go to bronsonequity.com and click the join button. We'll start a relationship with you and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show. You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.